It's prime real estate in the heart of Hobart that successive governments since colonial times have tried to sell or knock down. But Anglesea Barracks has escaped the auctioneers and wreckers' hammer. Now housing all three arms of the Defence Force, the barracks is about to mark its 200th anniversary.
Anglesea Barracks is in fact probably the jewel in the Defence Department's crown. It's the oldest continually occupied military barracks in Australia.
In 1811, Governor Lachlan Macquarie rode to a hill overlooking the new settlement and decided it was an ideal place for barracks. Now the 6 hectares is part of Inner Hobart. In the 19th century, it was far enough out of town to separate soldiers from the convict rabble.
One of the issues that they had with the military in the early days was to separate them from the convicts. Pretty much all the British soldiers were of a similar type of environment, if I could put it that way. Some were farmers, some were people from the cities in England, and as a consequence they tended to drink together a lot, even though they were convicts. And a point that is often missed is that a lot of the convicts were also soldiers. Over 3,200 of the early convicts that came to Tasmania were soldiers under punishment and serving time out here as convicts.
When it didn't stop the men in uniform from fraternising with the wrong sort, authorities had to come up with another solution.
By putting a 7-foot high picket fence around the building, and later on they also added bars to the windows in the barracks building to keep the soldiers in of a night. Later on, as they continued to have issues with soldiers fighting with whalers and the like on the waterfront, they included a tap room so they could drink on site without actually leaving the premise.
There are no longer those sorts of issues for Lieutenant Colonel Helen McPherson, who lives on site in the old military hospital. It's been the commander's residence for the past 100 years.
I'd say it's quirky. There's a lot of creaking going on in the night and some noises which are slightly strange. We've had some problems with one of our guest bathrooms, which has a tendency to lock itself without any prompting. That door used to be the exit ways from the house to an older pathway that used to be there. So I'm not sure if it's an overzealous individual making sure that we secure the residents of a night. Who knows?
Lieutenant Colonel McPherson is the project director for Anglesea 200, which will include an open day on December the 3rd. There will be a Navy dive tank, Federation Guard precision drills, a flyover by the Roulettes and the Red Berets doing jumps.
It's an incredibly full-on day, which I suspect won't be replicated until possibly the 250th.
There will also be reenactments in period costumes.
People dressed in period costume, no one returning to that period of surgery without anaesthetic.
He's hoping there'll be no one returning to that, but if they are, we'll make sure that they are not co-located with the food stands, just in case.
Chairman of Tasmania's Military Heritage Foundation, John Lennox, has co-authored a book on the history of the barracks to be launched to coincide with the anniversary. Although it's had a continuous defence presence, parts of the barracks have had many incarnations. The jail became a girls' reformatory. It's now the Military Museum, which has been refurbished.
We've been very fortunate as part of this new exhibition to tap into some unseen objects that are in our community. A significant Tasmanian family has loaned us material relating to their forebear, who was in the 28th Regiment of Foot, who served in Australia and later became a magistrate. He served at Waterloo and in the Peninsular Campaign as well with Wellington.
There are new exhibitions on Vietnam, peacekeeping operations and the service of women in war. There's been a hive of restoration activity across the barracks in recent years, some of it extremely costly. To replace a sandstone lintel cost $400,000.
It's all intact. It's pretty much, if Governor Macquarie, who came here on the 2nd of December and envisaged this place, if he were here today, he would see very little change on the exterior of all the buildings.
Now covered by federal and state heritage laws, at times the barracks' future was less secure. Early last century, when the Commonwealth took over, Mr Lennox says it had a close shave.
Some politicians at that stage had thought the site should have been demolished and that the Army should have been given the rifle range at Sandy Bay, which the university now occupies. And there was a plan that to change the site to a residential reserved area with some parklands in the middle of the buildings around the circle.
The Commonwealth has recently reassured defence will stay at the barracks. Mr Lennox is relieved because he says it will protect a treasure trove of memorabilia.
Probably one of the most significant objects on the barrack is the obelisk that commemorates those 99th Regiment soldiers that were killed in the Maori Wars in the 1860s and 1840s. It's the only war memorial outside of Britain to soldiers in the Commonwealth.